just want to do a quick video in relation to the importance of doing your or checking your wheel nuts, understanding what torque setting it is for your nuts on your van and your car as well. It goes for both, but we're talking about the van in this case, and having the tools required to check them and make sure that they're right. The wheel nuts need to be at the right tension, the wheel, because the thread on the studs, the studs that are coming out of your drum hub, and the nuts, that seating pressure, when you do that nut up onto that thread, it stretches the stud, and it stretches it to the point where the experts and the engineers have decided that is the pressure and the stretch that will ensure that they won't undo. Do it up too tight and you risk snapping one off. Do it up not tight enough and you run the risk that they undo themselves. So having it at the right tension, a lot of thought by a lot of smart people has gone into that. So it's vital that you understand how that works, and it's vital that you understand what the foot-pound setting is, or the Newton-meter setting is for your particular wheel and on your particular caravan. And the reason why it's particularly important to us is because we lost this wheel coming back to Melbourne on the last trip. Got out to have a cup of coffee, and this wheel was gone. Now, it's on the curbside, and we're incredibly lucky that it was on the curbside, because it's going to spear off into the bush, and more likely than not, it's going to miss a lot more stuff going in that direction than if it comes off the driver's side of the car and spears off into traffic coming in the other direction, because we're doing 100 k's, traffic coming the other way is doing 100 k's, and that impact is going to be a 200 km/h impact, and that wheel and tyre is going to weigh somewhere in the vicinity of 35 kilos. So a car getting smacked with a 35 kilo weight travelling at 200 km/h is a fairly significant impact, and it's going to do a fairly significant amount of damage. And the reverse side of that equation is that it could well be us, and it could well be you driving down the road when somebody else's wheel comes off and spears off into my car, your car, or whatever. And we could just as well be in a position where you're driving down the road minding your own business, as could have happened in our case, and this bloody wheel just comes flying through the friggin' windscreen of your car at 200 km/h. So it's vitally important that you understand that this is your responsibility, and you need to make sure these things are done up and learn from our mistake, and hopefully, everybody will make it home safe and not get a wheel in their gob. In relation to the wheels, in our particular instance, the tension on our wheels, these nuts were the nuts were set 3 times, checked twice, done up, and then checked twice before we left. I was adjusting the brakes, and anyway, 3 times they were done, and so I'm 100% confident that there was no problem with the initial torque setting of those nuts when we left. And same with the car. The car was done at the same time before we left. We did about 4,500 k's. This is the drum that came off the van. It's ripped out, snapped off all 6 of the studs. It's jammed embedded aluminium into this cast iron drum hub, and it's been flapping around on the van for a significant amount of time. That's not something that's going to happen very quickly. It's going to start, and it's going to get worse, and then it's going to start biting off studs and that before it peels off, and it can actually come up through the bottom of your van and go underneath your back wheel and impact that and throw the van around. There's all sorts of really bad juju that can happen when a wheel parts company, and it could end up anywhere. And so it's completely decimated that drum hub. So we had to fix that on the road, park up, camp the night. I left, Barb stayed with the van, and I drove into the northern parts of Melbourne to a caravan parts supplier, picked up a new drum hub, went back and fixed it, and back on the road. And so we've ended up. This is the rim, the Jayco rim, which they're made in Thailand, which there's nothing wrong with that. And they're a 15 by 6-inch alloy rim, and I've decided to ditch those and go to steel. So these are the new ones that I've bought, which are just a Sunraysia, or with this particular brand, Australia's original 8-spoke. So they're your typical black Sunraysia rims. What they look like is of no consequence to me, but they're steel. And they'll take the same nuts. They're just a 60-degree tapered nut, 60-degree tapered seat, and so it's vital that you check these things reasonably regularly, as we normally do, and we'd only done 4,000 or so Ks when it had happened, and we're on the way back home. One important thing is that we felt nothing when it happened, had no idea. There was no thumping, there was no rattling, there was no vibration going through the car. We were completely oblivious to it, and had no idea that wheel had gone missing. And more significantly than that, so the first thing you do when you find the wheel's gone missing, you can't replace it. It's not going to instantly fix. I can't pull one out of my freckle and put it on there. So that's a done deal. And so what we have to do is we have to work around how we're going to repair it, get ourselves back on the road and keep going. So in my case, I've got the skills and the knowledge to be able to repair it myself. So I've got no issue with that aspect of it. But another significant part of what we discovered was one of the first things you do in this circumstance is you check the other wheels. You check the other 3 wheels and the studs and the nuts on the other 3 wheels, and all 18 of them had less tension on them than what they should have had. Not significantly, but they had lost all 18 of the other wheel nuts had lost tension. And in contrast, this is the one of the nuts of the original rims, which we'll go back onto these ones for the time being, and which has got the 60-degree taper on them. And on the car, the cars there's no taper on that whatsoever. It's just a flat, straight clamping force straight on. Whereas the 60-degree taper, it's going into it's got a 60-degree wedge going into a 60-degree receiver. So it's pushing, the pressure is going that way, not that way. A certain amount of it's going that way, but a lot of it's spreading, pushing that material apart, if you like, trying to force its way in and make a bigger hole. Now whether that's got something to do with it, I don't know. I'm not a wheel nut engineer, but when I checked the car, all 4 wheels on the car had not lost any tension whatsoever, and they were all checked at the same time, and these ones had been checked 3 times, the car only once before we left. So look, for what it's worth, learn from our mistake, or learn from our not checking them enough. What are you doing? And get yourself a torque wrench, the correct size socket for it, and find out what the correct settings are for your wheels. And in my case, my torque wrench, I have my torque settings taped on with a piece of sticky tape onto the handle of the torque wrench, so I can't forget it. It's got the wheels for the van and the car, and the steel wheels, because we have 2 sets of wheels for the car, off-road wheels that I use when I go camping, and towing wheels, which are a little bit wider and a little bit smaller, and make the car a little bit more stable when I'm towing, and then we swap them backwards and forwards. So we've got all the tensions that are required on that, and we carry it with us when we're away. So for what it's worth, check your damn wheel nuts, because if you don't, you might end up in the same position we are and lose one. or in our case 2, because it's happened to us twice. Anyway, for what it's worth, hope that helps.